All right, we'll get started. Good evening. Welcome to the November 11th, 2024 meeting of the Marshfield Planning Board. The time is now 7:02 p.m. and we are holding a live remote meeting via Zoom. Tonight's members here are Katie O'Donnell, Nick Papastratis, Fred Monaco, I'm Mike Viviano, the chair. Absent tonight is Kevin Cantwell and our associate member, Scott DeCastro. Also with us is Greg Guimont, our town planner, and Karen Horn, our assistant town planner.
Karen is not here tonight as well.
Oh, I can't see the screen right now, so that's Karen's not here. At this time, I'll make a motion to open tonight's public meeting and waive the reading of the notice. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you.
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Looks like we need to approve some minutes. Anyone have any issue with the minutes of 10:21?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of 10:21:24. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick Papastratis, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye.
So Mike, it's a continued public hearing for Luca Lane.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We open the continued public hearing for Luca Lane. Is there a second?
Second, Fred Monaco.
Katie?
She's frozen.
Yeah, she's
Katie,
frozen.
can you hear us? Oh, here she goes. Katie, can you hear us?
Yes. Sorry, you guys all froze on me for a second.
That's what I thought. I
We
did.
made a motion to reopen Luca Lane.
So,
And Fred,
you need me a second or just to vote?
just vote. Fred jumped in.
Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye.
Greg Morris is here to present, and then we have Pat Brennan as well.
Okay, hi Greg, go ahead.
Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. I'm going to do a share screen and put a copy of the plans up for everyone to see here. Just bear with me one second. Okay, you should see a copy of the subdivision plan. Do you see that?
Yep.
Great, thank you. So representing the applicant, Biagini Incorporated, this is a continued hearing for a 4-lot subdivision to be known as Luca Lane. It's located in the Residence A zoning district up off of Ames Way near the Ames Way Elementary School. Last time I was in front of the board, I presented these plans which show the construction of a new cul-de-sac road, Luca Lane. That cul-de-sac is 592 feet long. It provides access to 3 new house lots, 1, 2, 3, as well as to house number 111 Ames Way, which would access off of the Luca Lane subdivision road. Since the last time I was before you, we submitted revised plans and a letter dated October 22nd to address comments that were raised by the town of Marshfield DPW, Charlie Swanson, Pat Brennan in his peer review conducted on behalf of the town, and then comments that we received at the public hearing. The most notable change, we shifted the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac here used to be right up against the northern property line with the abutter Miller on the north here. We've shifted that cul-de-sac approximately 20 feet to the south, and so it allows for a vegetated screen to be installed between the Miller property as well as this cul-de-sac, as well as provide 20 feet of additional setback from the cul-de-sac. We revised drainage calculations and some of the construction details per Mr. Brennan's and Mr. Swanson's peer reviews. I believe that we've satisfied Pat, but he is on the call. I see him on tonight, so I expect you'll hear from him. I can go over those revisions that he had brought up, but primarily we conducted an additional test pit within the rain garden. We changed out the types of hoods in the catch basin drainage systems. We added 1 additional subdivision waiver for a Cape Cod berm from a 18-inch Cape Cod berm, which is what your regulations require, down to a 12-inch Cape Cod berm at his recommendation. We made some other pipe sizing changes in the calculations and added a sill at the detention basin outlet. Included in our submittal of October 22nd was a copy of our waiver request letter. There are 7 waivers that we were asking for as part of this subdivision. I can go through those individually when the time comes, but at this point, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Your concerns?
Were you asking me, Mike? I'm sorry.
Yep. Sorry. Yep. Go ahead, Pat.
No, Greg, as he mentioned, he addressed all of my comments. You know, and I think it's that for the most part, it's just you know, going over the waivers that they're requesting. And like Greg just mentioned, the waiver for the berm, they're going to the 12-inch berms because most of the pavers don't have the 18-inch berm attachments for their pavers. And in doing that, they're widening the travel lanes by 6 inches. So the overall width of the pavement from back of berm to back of berm is still going to be what's required in your regulation. So it's the same amount of asphalt, just a narrower Cape Cod berm.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Greg, Kimon?
So we're in pretty good shape. I think we have one outstanding issue left, which is the cul-de-sac location with the Miller property. Tom had sent me an email asking about why can't we get rid of the cul-de-sac? And as I mentioned in the past, based on our experience with Monica Way and other hammerheads, which is a different way of doing things where people have to do multiple turns to turn around and leave a subdivision, I would not recommend, or the staff would not recommend removal of the cul-de-sac. We did talk with, or I did talk with Greg Morris about adding some additional plantings because they had shown pine trees, and I had brought up the fact that the pine trees, after a while, they'll grow tall and they won't provide any buffer. So I'd asked for some shrubs, bushes and stuff to be additionally planted, and they're willing to do that. But I think at this point, we should check. I think Tom is on the call. I can't see right now because the plan's on the screen, but I believe Mr. Miller is on the call as well. And he is the one person I think with an outstanding issue.
Yeah, I mean, I just, thanks, Greg. Yeah, I appreciate the 20 feet. I mean, 20 feet is not a whole lot, obviously. It's still a road in our backyard. I mean, you can put as much vegetation there. It's still right there. I mean, it just, and I didn't necessarily mean, I think I saw these plans. My first reaction was typing an email to Greg. So I didn't take like the 20-second rule or anything. And I understand the cul-de-sac. It's enormous. It's twice the size of that house. That's just the thing here that just really kind of doesn't make much sense. And I've looked at the waivers and I understand the property line that was drawn. And obviously that's how this cul-de-sac is trying to go in. That property line was drawn, I think it was 2001. Our house is 40 years old. It was there when this was drawn. And you know, I just really don't understand the massive enormity of the cul-de-sac and still don't get the placement when there's 3 other houses on that property. And if you want to shift up, shift down a little bit, the real reason is the slope of that property. Everything's getting jammed up on the flat part of the property, which happens to be right near our house. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I was hoping for a little bit more. 20 feet. There's kids at Marshfield High School that can long jump 20 feet. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you for the comments. The board have any questions right now, or we want to go to the waiver request? All right, seeing none. Greg Morris, can you bring up the waiver request so we can review those?
Sure. Bear with me one sec while I get that up.
Kids can really jump 20 feet like that? Wow. Let me go to those track and field games.
Okay, so you should have on the screen the waiver request letter that we submitted.
Good.
Starting with waiver request number 1 here. This was a request for the layout of the radius at the intersection of Luca Lane and Ames Way. The proposal here on the north side of that intersection is not to provide a property line radius, but to provide an easement for the radius. This is an easement that's already in existence. It's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. It was laid out in 2001 when the property lines for this property were established, and it was laid out for the intent of a roadway going in. I think if I switch over to the subdivision plan here, you can see exactly where we mean. Right here at the intersection of Luca Lane and Ames Way. This would be an easement to allow for the curb radius. The curbing all fits within that. It doesn't impact number 95 Ames Way whatsoever. That was waiver number 1. Waiver request number 2 was in regards to section 10.B4, which requires a 50-foot buffer zone of existing vegetation between detention basin structures and adjacent land uses. The proposal here was to have the detention basin within 50 feet of the Ames Way and Luca Lane intersection. This location was chosen because this is the downhill location. This is the low point of the site where all of the stormwater is directed to, with the existing conditions as well as with the proposed conditions. It's the location that the soils made sense and the topography of the land made sense to place the basin. We are proposing a screening of evergreens and deciduous trees around it to provide screening.
Okay. Hey, Greg, just real quick, I should have asked the board members on the first waiver and now the second waiver. Do we have any issues with those or conversation to have about those? Both make sense to me, but I just want to make sure so we don't just have to revisit everything again. And we can just go back to the ones that need discussion, if any do. All right, Greg, sorry to interrupt you. If any of the board members have it as we go through, just, address it at that time, please.
Yep. Thanks, Michael. I don't, but thanks.
Thank you. So waiver request number 3 was with respect to section 10.E2 of the subdivision rules and regs, which requires that all drainage pipes have a minimum of 2.5 feet of cover over them. In our proposal, the drain pipes at the intersection of Luca Lane and Ames Way have a minimum of 1.8 feet of cover over them. We do specify that those pipes are class 5 reinforced pipes, which are a heavy duty pipe made for reduced cover like that scenario. We felt that this one was necessary because we didn't get to design the elevation of the Ames Way street. If Ames Way was designed in accordance with today's regulations, it probably would have been higher in elevation. But where we're connecting into it, that's where we don't comply with the cover, is down at the bottom of the hill, where we have 1.8 feet of cover over the drainage pipes.
Okay, Pat, any issue with that at all?
No, the class 5 is what they need, and that's what they're proposing. So that's typically what we see with these reduced cover requests.
Okay, thank you.
Waiver request number 4. The requirement is that street trees may be planted within the right-of-way or within a 20-foot wide street tree easement on both sides of the right-of-way. In our case, we're proposing street trees within a street tree easement that's 5 feet wide along the southerly side of the roadway only. Placing street trees within the right-of-way as specified in your rules and regulations, we didn't feel was a good layout just because of the proximity of the roots and the trees to the sidewalk and the pavement. So placing the trees on the individual lots seemed appropriate. We have them a couple feet onto the lots within a 5-foot wide street tree easement. The 20-foot wide easement didn't seem necessary if the tree is going to be only 4 feet or so off the edge of the back edge of the sidewalk. The easement of 20 feet didn't seem necessary, so we're asking for that waiver. Questions on that one?
No, don't see any.
Waiver request number 5 is in regards to Appendix A, the typical roadway cross-section. The typical roadway cross-section in your rules and regulations specifies an 18-inch wide Cape Cod berm to be constructed on either side of the street. As you heard earlier from Mr. Brennan, most pavers cannot construct an 18-inch wide Cape Cod berm. They are able to construct a 12-inch wide Cape Cod berm. That's what our proposal is to do 12-inch Cape Cod berms on either side. We would take the additional pavement width and add it to the travel lanes so that the overall width of the street from side to side remains exactly per your rules and regulations. It's just that the Cape Cod berm would be a 12-inch berm instead of an 18-inch berm.
Okay.
Waiver request number 6 is again with respect to your Appendix A typical roadway cross-section. The requirement, it shows that the water mains are to be constructed 7 feet off from the center line of the street. The problem that we see with that is that the water line would then have to go through all of the drainage, which is along the edge of the street. It would be going through the catch basins. We've proposed to offset the water main 3 feet from the center line. Therefore, the water main pipe will not intercept any of the catch basins. It's located under the pavement. There are no conflicts. Any questions on that?
No, we don't see any, Greg.
And request number 7 is also with respect to Appendix A, the typical roadway cross-section. Your roadway cross-section shows a gas main 9 feet from the center line. For the same reason here, 9 feet from the center line conflicts with the drainage and catch basin piping in the street. The proposal here is to put the gas main under the grass strip between the curb and the sidewalk. It would prevent conflicts and allow it to be excavated or worked on if it ever needed to be without going into the street, into the pavement.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Greg, my only comment, I don't have any issue with any of the waiver requests, but number 4 about the trees, I think that's been a common issue that we think we might need to change at some point. So the roots of those trees aren't messing up the sidewalks in other cases, as they have in other subdivisions in the past. So we might consider a change there.
Yeah, we probably would need more than the 5 feet. We did, Kevin Seelan on Red Gold Farm had put them off the road, I think at least 10 feet. Because the roots do bunch up the cul-de-sac, the sidewalk, but we currently, we have them shown in between the sidewalk and the street. And we were gonna shift them so they're outside on the either the edge of the right of way, depending on how wide the right of way is, or on a tree easement. So the concept of the tree easement, I don't have a problem with. They are doing additional plantings down on Ames Way along the drainage basin. And with additional plantings up by the cul-de-sac and perhaps fencing or something to screen the Miller property. I see those are a nice balance for the waivers requested.
Okay, and what was number 5, Greg?
Number 5 was the Cape Cod berm width.
Yeah, so, well, again, I don't have a problem with it here, obviously.
That
It
one
makes sense.
we do need to change down to foot because they don't have a lot of pavers that have the wider one.
All right, so just in the future, we should look into when we do our own changes going for that.
Yep.
Any questions, comments from the board right now, Nick?
Yeah, I had a question for Greg Morris. Can you just pull up sheet 6 for me on your plans there?
Sure.
Just wanted to clarify a couple things.
You see the screen, the plan right now?
No, we're seeing your file window here, not
Okay.
the PDF.
Hold on one more sec.
Yep.
Six is the landscaping plan.
Yeah.
There you go.
Great.
There we are. Yep.
Okay, so from the Miller's property at the north side there to the right of way, the closest point you said was about 20 feet, you said?
So this lot line here
Yeah.
is a little over 18 feet in length
Okay.
to the right of way line.
Yep. And then,
then-
but so to the actual inside face of curb, that's what? That's an additional 10 feet or so
Close
in
to
terms
it.
of where
So
in
from
terms
the-
of where the roadway would be. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, close to it. So from the pavement to their property is in excess of, I would say, 25 to 28 feet.
Okay. All right, perfect. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to confirm that and note that for everyone here. Okay,
Yep.
all good.
This was the screening that we had proposed there, which, as Mr. Guimond said, we had proposed white pines. We could certainly supplement that or, fill that in with more of like a green giant arborvitae, a deer resistant, evergreen, or some additional shrubbery at that location as well.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
All right, Greg, Guimond, you looking to talk?
Yes, I had a question for Tom Miller. Tom, if they, in addition to additional plantings, if they are willing to put some fencing, solid fencing along their property line for X amount of distance on each side of where that cul-de-sac centers, does that help?
I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt, but again, it's, I think you have to see it to really look at the situation. But it's gonna be, this looks like it's the way it's going, so, we'll,
Tom, does the fence actually help you, or is more plantings look better? Because a fence in the middle of the woods would seem strange to me.
it's just a road. That's the tough thing. I mean, you can plant as much stuff there, but it's still, right there, looking right out our living room right there. So,
Well, I
mean, you
just
can
know
put-
if it was my house, I understand what you're talking about. I don't think I want to look out and straight up see a fence.
yeah, no,
know,
I think exactly right. I mean, I'm not sure a fence there would be
Yeah.
exactly what we'd be looking for, but
I think the plantings are really the way to go there.
Yes,
I agree.
oh, my wife's yelling at it from the other room.
Yeah, I just don't want to lock somebody into a fence, have to put it up and go, oh man, what a terrible looking fence there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, it all depends on how much is getting knocked down out there and all that. So, if it's a clear cut, then we're gonna need everything. Because,
All right. Greg Guimond, was there something else?
No, this is pretty much the one outstanding issue that we have. We're in pretty good shape to close.
How is it written right now for the plantings?
Sorry, Mike, what?
Sorry, Greg Gimon, how is it written up right now for the plantings to be accomplished?
I had talked with Greg Morris for additional plantings. Pat can work with him on the type of planting, but it was to be lower and more evergreen in nature. So during the fall and winter, they would still have buffer.
Okay,
And it would be up in that area where they have the former right of way,
sure.
18-foot wide area in particular, but to go in either direction, probably 50 feet.
Okay. Does the board have any issues with any of the waiver requests?
No,
Okay, I'm all set. I don't have any. Katie?
No.
Okay. And Fred, any issues with the waiver requests?
No.
Okay. Greg Gimon, I think we're good to close this.
Yep.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, is anyone else from the public here? I just see one other person in on this meeting, but might be for something else. So, all right, seeing no other questions, I'm gonna make a motion to close this meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell.
Close the public hearing.
To close the public hearing. Thank you, Greg.
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you, Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, I.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, Greg, what's the next steps, just so the public knows?
So
here?
I managed to finish a draft today. I've sent it to the board members to take a look at. It pretty much sets up. I just didn't know what we were gonna do with the final thing about the landscaping in the cul-de-sac. So
Okay.
it's the one thing that has not been addressed yet.
Okay.
The board, as part of its motion, could add more detail if you so choose. And then I will have a decision ready for signature by the tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, we'll take a look at it when it comes across. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, next we're moving on to, sorry, I don't have it up. No, we don't have anything else really. Board staff report.
So actually, if you guys want to vote on a decision, now that you've closed the public hearing, you can. You've had a draft decision to look at, so you pretty much know, the parameters. I did not expect any problems with the waivers, et cetera. So I think that's probably the first thing you want to do, and then we'll go to the board staff report.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to look, or is everyone comfortable voting?
Yeah, I'm good to vote.
Okay. Sorry, I rushed that. I apologize. All right, everyone looks like they're okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the decision as written.
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Well, actually, Greg, you kind of looked at that
You want to say something, so.
about the plantings.
Right, you're gonna ask for additional plantings on the cul-de-sac area for at least 50 feet in each direction from that center line that they show on the property line.
Okay, does that back property line go back at least 50 feet, so it's not in the middle of someone's yard on the right?
It's gonna be on, you got on the left side, Craig, are you still there? Could we get the plan up for a second again? Otherwise, I can show it on why don't I show it?
Yep.
It's technically within the right of way, but yeah, it does front part of the property.
Yep. So in that area, it can be planted because it's the right of way.
Okay.
On the other side, it's gonna be part of lot 1. And depending on how much they're showing some trees and stuff to remain, but I think there's gonna be some additional room for plantings in that area.
Okay, so we'll try the motion slightly different. I'm just gonna amend the motion that we started to say we approve the plan as written, and we're requiring up to 100 feet of arborvitaes or some plant to be planted along there, that the applicant can discuss with Pat Brennan what is best. 50 feet on either side of the central line of the cul-de-sac. Does that cover us, Greg?
I'll get some language that covers everything, but.
Okay.
The idea is, see that property line that says 1832?
Yep.
We center on that and plant on either side,
Okay.
a distance of 50 feet, additional evergreen plantings besides the pine trees.
So moved. Is there a second for that?
Katie O'Donnell, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thanks, Katie. Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, I.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to your report, Greg.
All right, for board staff, last Friday, I met with a potential developer and his attorney about the possibility of using a combination of Chapter 40B, which is the the override of local zoning, and the new Chapter 40Y, which the state calls starter housing. I've sent you the Chapter Y language. Basically, Chapter Y is a by right starter home, so there's a size restriction on the house, 4 units per acre density. I'm not convinced of this yet. Part of my problem is the even at 4 units per acre, it would require enhanced nitrifying systems in the Water Resource Protection District. And one of the properties they're looking at is in the Water Resource Protection District. It would also require us to take it to town meeting for a town meeting change to adopt 40Y.
Is there a minimum lot size, Greg?
Hmm?
Is there a minimum lot size?
Just 4 units per acre is what they're saying. So they don't have a minimum lot size on that.
Yeah, so you just tear down 3 houses in the R1 and build 12 houses?
It looked like they were looking to tear down one house, one existing house on a piece of land and building a number of units on there. I got a little more digging I want to do. I want to look at the property a little better and then have a full discussion with the board. We're talking at the earliest would be next April town meeting, if we were to go forward with something like that. The next meeting, we have a continued zoning public hearing on the ADUs and the MBTA community language zoning articles. And we're also adding those other articles that we were a little late on. They did get submitted as part of the package to the select board, but the remaining articles are all kind of changes we're looking for to tighten things up or correct problems. After the next meeting, we also have our continued public hearing on the John Sherman open space intrusion. And then after that meeting, we have one more meeting on December 2nd before the December 16th town meeting for the ADUs and the MBTA. I have had a discussion with the town moderator, and he is leaning towards, if we do not hear from the Supreme Judicial Court on the Milton case, that he would suggest that we pass on the MBTA articles until next April. He is concerned that if we go to town meeting and there's still no attorney general, court decision on Milton, that it would not go well and it would go down in flames again potentially. So he would be in favor of holding off on that. On our side, we have to have a report to town meeting. So I think on our side, our deadline is December 2nd to make a decision for the planning board, 1, recommendation to town meeting, and 2, the planning board, because this has come up before 2 years have passed, the planning board has to agree to allowing the zoning article to go back to town meeting. So those are the two votes that you guys would need to make on the MBTA zoning. There was a state meeting on the ADU today, which is the accessory dwelling units. And it was interesting because the officials from the state repeatedly stressed that there will be regulations for the ADU outcome coming out, and that they will have public hearing process and lots more interaction on these changes, which is one of the major points of contention in the Milton case on the MBTA communities, that the fact that the state did not pass regulations, they just put out guidelines and didn't follow a particular process. So it's very interesting that the state stressed today that they were going to follow these requirements in public meetings, et cetera. And then I think that's it yeah, that's it for my update. So I guess on our side, December 2nd is kind of the deadline for the board to decide what you want to do with the MBTA communities. The ADU and the other zoning articles, I think we still need to go through with. If we do not pass something before February 2nd on the ADUs, the ADU law will just take effect, and then it will be kind of open season because the state says by right. The draft that we have does have some requirements of area setbacks and height and stuff, which is we're allowed to do. It also has a requirement on short-term rentals, which we are allowed to do if we pass language. So that's why I'm really feel that we need to go through with the ADU regardless of what goes on with MBTA communities.
Greg, do we have a meeting December 2nd? Is that why you brought that date up?
That's, we have a planning board meeting on, at least I have it on my calendar that we all
Okay.
have a planning board meeting on December 2nd.
Yeah, I won't be here for that one. I'm away for that.
Okay, so then maybe we have to discuss it on the 18th of November.
Yeah, if we could, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
And then who brought 40Y up to us?
The attorney and the possible developer of our property.
They're just bringing it up, hoping that we bring R3 zoning to the R1 district.
Yes.
Sounds terrific. All right.
Well, I mean, they were talking about putting in a 40B as well, and I basically said, look, we are in safe harbor at the moment. The town is not saying no to anything, but the town would like to see something that would be a benefit. They feel a single family 40B would be more beneficial. So I think that's why they're pursuing that. But we'll have a little more as I go along, but the language, you guys have the base language, I sent that to you. And again, the state has not produced any regulations or anything that goes with 40Y yet. 40Y is not imposed. 40Y is an option for the town. So
For now,
if you guys don't want to do that, you don't have to.
40Y seems scarier than MBTA.
All three are kind of, but I mean, again, the 40Y one wouldn't happen until next April town meeting anyway. It's the cleaning guy, sorry.
That's if we even talk about it.
Right, that's if you guys want to go that route.
Yeah.
Be April at the earliest.
Okay. All right, any other comments from the board members? All right, seeing none, all right, thanks everyone for being here. I'll make a motion to conclude tonight's meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, I.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
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 Thanks.